My name is Gabriel Payawal. Friends call me B-Boy Payawal. And I'm here with about a little over than 19 minutes to be talking about AI everywhere, securing Gen AI. Can I just see hands in the room? Anybody working in security, whatever form of security? Okay, wonderful. The rest are any developers in the room? Developers. Okay, operations team, infra team, platforms team. Okay, so this bunch is a very good bunch because we are all represented very well in the domain that your companies have entrusted you to rule, so to speak. So for today, I am in a great spot or position primarily because I no longer need to define what Gen AI is because it's been past the day, and I'm sure everybody has heard what Gen AI is. So I will not start from that, but rather I'd start with this slide whereby what Gen AI promises. Have you ever promised something to somebody? Yes, I guess we all have. No? And this is the promise of Gen AI. And, well, I will not be going through each word that you see in the slide. You can screen capture it, and whatnot. But basically, Gen AI promises a couple of things, which is pretty much anchored on improvement. Can everybody say with me, improvement? Thank you. Para hindi kayo masyadong makakatulog. Ano? But pretty much it's all about improvement. We're talking about enhancement of performance. And we are talking about all of these improvements and enhancements in security, primarily. And, of course, very important, cost reduction. Oh. So we are in an era where we want to pay less, but we want to do more. That's the world we're living in. No? And this is the promise of Gen AI. And it, for me, personal note, technologies like yourselves, this is an amazing promise. Improvement, enhancements, more secured life, speed, intelligently making decisions or whatnot, moving forward, until it goes bad. How bad? I only have one particular example for you how bad it can get because it costs $25 million. Happened in Hong Kong about early this year. Some finance guy, supposedly the CFO of a UK-based firm, talking to his guy in Hong Kong. He didn't only talk to them, he showed his face. And a bunch of other people from the board, they actually had a video call. Instructing this person, we've got everything cleared, please transmit $25 million. The guy was actually cautious because prior to that call, he received an email and he thought it was phishing. So he was very cautious. Good guy. But then when the video call came, it looked like his bosses. So how is that? You see, the promise of Gen AI is amazing, and I love it. As a technology person, we all love the advancement of technology, the speed of how things are being thought of, being implemented, especially now, post-COVID, everything is just so fast now on how things are being innovated. But the promises, here's the question, weighing the promise versus potential threats. Now, I'm not saying that we drop all our Gen AI initiatives. But just to benchmark the room, anybody already considering using Gen AI? Anybody? All right, wonderful. Anybody who is exploring, meaning you are already in the staging environment? Anyone? Wonderful. Anybody who's already jumped the boat and already there? Okay, fair enough. And maybe that's why everybody's here. Trying to figure out what is my next move? Should I or should I not? Well, let's move forward. And I would like to present this case, because we're talking about Gen AI. I'd like to present this case because I personally believe, and I honestly believe, that everything starts and ends with an API call. Dear friends, we are in 2024. So most of our applications, primarily the ones that we use personally, are all API generated. All the front ends that we see are API enabled. Now, for our enterprise systems, the ones that we use inside our own companies, most of them are API enabled. And that's why I am presenting the case whereby a lot of good things start with an API call and ends with an API call, but potentially a lot of bad things also start with an API call and end with an API call. So F5 has done its research, some methodological way of trying to see how many API calls will be there until 2030. And however you want to look at it, but there will be billions of API calls sooner than later. And this is the trend. It will not go away. Truth be told, APIs have been there for about 50, 60 years. It's been there for the longest time. But APIs today, wow, they've never been noticed before than it is today. So when I talk about API calls, how does that look like? Everything, like I mentioned earlier, everything that we see on the front end is being called by an API. Most of us, we were trying to find parking. How in AIM, you probably use your Waze to try and find parking. Where do I park? That's an API call. For it to come out on your phone or on your dashboard in your vehicles. Every time we check out something is an API call. When we log into something is an API call. So dear friends, API calls is man's best friend. We've been using it day and night, but many of our families don't know that they're using that. And that's why I present this case. Everything starts and ends with an API call. Now, APIs, as predicted, it will rise. Why? Because a couple of parameters. Number one is digital transformation. Everyone is still talking about digital transformation. I went to Vismin, I went to Cebu rather a couple of months ago, and I had a conversation with the IT manager. You know, in the Philippines, for the foreigners, there are a lot of companies who have IT managers, and they are also the security guys. They are also the sysad guys. They also do support. So the IT manager is pretty much IT. He's the IT personified. So I've been talking to this IT manager. You know, I always like drawing on the board. I just can't do that now. You know, use the whiteboard and all that stuff. And you know, I was happy because we were talking about transformation. But the kind of transformation that we were talking about, you know what his problem was? Or rather what he wanted to do? He wanted to set up a DR site. And for those of you who know F5, oh yeah, we are the greatest load balancer of all time. No, in fact, I would like to qualify that we are the most expensive load balancer of all time. I see some hands. Thank you, sir. Thank you for acknowledging. That's who we have been. That's our DNA. But truth be told, This guy is transforming. Are you with me? He's transforming his company. He no longer is satisfied when something is down for X number of hours. He needs something that he can make him more resilient. And I have respect for the guy. I traveled all the way there to talk about the DR site, but I have respect for him because they are transforming. Because a lot of companies still are transforming. And for one thing I have realized is that there's no right and wrong about transforming, because transforming is a preference of the customer. However he wants to transform, move to the cloud, whatever, use AI now, sure. There's no right or wrong. It's just a matter of preference. No? Just like my father, who still prefers to pay Meralco over the counter. Does it work? Of course, they still have their lights on. But he prefers that route. He prefers it. All right. I'm cool with that. Why APIs will continue to rise is because of modern applications. Because we are in 2024, there are just modern applications every single day that is being done by probably a millennial or a Gen Z. Every single day. And then, of course, there is this edge computing. Every application is being pushed out in the edge so that the users will have better experience because it's going to be accessed faster. And then, of course, the fourth one, Gen AI, which is pretty much the major topic or theme that we have for this ISOG colloquium. Now, APIs. And I just wanted to put this here because I'm sure you've read some of these famous companies over a span of 24 months. Everything that you see here is API related. Something left something, perhaps open, and tragedy happened. And these are no small mom and pop stores or brands. These are major brands. And one of the most catastrophic is actually the Optus story, which I'm sure all your friends in the industry have talked about. You may have chat groups, what happened, and so I won't go there anymore. But this is one of those classic cases. Oh. So, the question is, can we secure AI? For those of you who are thinking about or considering already using AI in your own processes, in your companies, in your enterprise, in your domain, can we actually just secure AI without securing API? Dear friends, the answer is a straight no. These two things are so interlinked that you cannot talk about, I want to use AI now, without even having an API strategy. Because, like I said, everything starts and ends with an API call. A 60-year-old technology is so vulnerable today that we should not just brush this off. Similar to what many of us thought about DNS. DNS, one of the most simple yet profound technology that we use every single day. Many forget about DNS, that it needs to be secured. We use bind as DNS. Today, this is your new DNS. That should not be left out. So the answer is straight no. In fact, as Gardner would say it, and I'm borrowing their slide, they always release some sort of good material that a lot of folks actually follow. And what they have said, listen, there is always an OWASP top 10 that is being released every so often. And now, there is something called API OWASP top 10. And there is actually another one, which is AI risks top 10. And if you look at it, because there's so many security folks in the room, if you will just look at the boxes, all of these threats, vulnerabilities, or MOs, they are actually quite similar when we talk about API, when we talk about AI. They are quite similar. Why? Because they are so interlinked. And that's why the answer to the previous question, can I just secure my AI? Or should I, or just API? The answer is you need to secure them both. Now, in less than 4 minutes, there are 3 fundamental concerns that I would like to present to you, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, today. And I fashioned this in the basic questions of who, what, when, where. Wag namang why. Wala nang why. Who, what, when, where. When and where can AI be compromised? What do I do about the risks? And most importantly, who is responsible for this? Who in the world is responsible for what? All right? So the first one, I would like to present an application development lifecycle. You know, we start with planning, coding, building, all that stuff. We know this. We know this, right? And the threats are everywhere. Vulnerabilities are everywhere. From inception to actually coming out with a product or an application that we need to update every so often now. The threats are all there. So the answer is where? Everywhere. The answer is when? From the beginning. What to do about the risks? I have 3 things for you today, A, B, and C. The first one is being able to defend what you have. Now, when I say defend, you can have this. You may have that. You may also have that. And when we talk about continuously defending, you need to have eyes everywhere. Similar to the application development lifecycle that just presented in the previous slide. It has to be everywhere. You have to have eyes everywhere to see all the APIs. There are 2 usual questions that I ask when I talk to C-levels regarding APIs. The first question is, how many APIs do you have? There are only 2 gentlemen who were able to answer me that question. The second question, no one has ever answered me correctly. Or, I shouldn't say correctly, but rather, they don't know. What is the second question? Where are the APIs coming from? And that's why putting eyes everywhere is key. We should be able, or at least for those of you who are in architecture or planning, you should be able to find a solution that dynamically detects API endpoints. For those coders, developers in the room, you know this very well. You create an API perhaps. And then when you test it, you created another API of the same thing. There are so many iterations of APIs already. So now you should be able to detect them. I'll go a little bit faster. So what do we do? Consider going distributed. The previous speaker, si Lynette, mentioned this a bit. Distributed cloud. It's pretty much a place where you can configure, monitor, provision in a single place. Anywhere. Including up to these cute little containers, microservices. The third one is continuously innovate. How? I'm happy that everyone is having different roles in the room because innovation happens when there is collaboration. How many times somebody made something and they just transferred it to the security teams and they said, oh, that's your problem now. How many times? How many times have you been in war rooms like this? Talking about what happened, where did it go, what was done. So many times. And in today's world, because we are in 2024, all applications are becoming smaller and smaller. And applications are coming from everywhere. Third parties, internal. And we know, in security, we trust no one. So don't even trust me. Validate what I'm saying. Do your own research. Talk about it internally. Because the third thing is who is responsible. And I'd say all of us are responsible. Everyone is responsible. When we talk about security, it's everyone's problem. And that's why collaboration must be key. It should not be siloed, but there should be town hall meetings talking about what do we want to release, when do we issue updates, what is the latest. No? And these guys should collaborate talking about discovery. There's a new thing popping up on my dashboard. What is this? Who owns this? We should be able to monitor. And then, of course, secure. And always there is testing in between. Does that make sense? Are you with me? It's a continuous process. And that's why I love that diagram of the infinity sign for application development, because it is a continuous process. Gone are the days when we set something security and then we forget it. Because we need to check on it and check on it and check on it. And according to Gartner, and this is my last slide, when the world, I wouldn't say the world when dinosaurs ruled the earth, but rather, traditionally, everybody thought about silos. A domain for this, domain for that. Now, fast forward, because my time is up. Gartner is recommending decision makers, influencers in a company to consider having a unified, this is their terminology, not mine, cloud web application and API protection, which when you look it up, this is the distributed cloud that I said earlier. It came from them, not from me. So dear friends, my time is up. In summary, all those considering, already are exploring, or perhaps they're already, don't forget and never neglect APIs, because everything starts and ends with an API call. So with that, thank you so much for your time.
A huge part of the complexity that our customers are dealing with is having to deal with different infrastructure environments for their applications, because applications are more and more fragmented and they're more and more distributed. AI will exponentially accelerate this phenomenon, and we will see even more workloads that are even more distributed and that will also need to be secured and will need to be connected. F5 has invested early to provide this multi-cloud connectivity and be able to secure and deliver apps across these environments, but we have also invested in security for AI. So F5 is an AI enabler.
At AppWorld this year, we're making 3 big announcements. The first announcement is around our API security portfolio. F5 now has the most comprehensive API security offering that is AI ready for our customers on the market. What this means is that we have capabilities that span everything from API code scanning and testing, all the way through to network traffic analysis and scanning, all the way through to API protection and enforcement. That is the most comprehensive and end-to-end solution that is available from a single solution provider. So that's our first announcement. Our second big announcement here is around the data fabric that we have invested in significantly. This data fabric will be the destination for telemetry from all of our product families and will enable all of our products to become increasingly AI-driven. And then the third announcement that we're making here at AppWorld this year is that we are launching an AI assistant that will be part of our distributed cloud console. What that AI assistant will enable customers to do is use natural language queries to get back structured responses around their threat landscape, the posture and health of their application portfolio, and also give them guided recommendations and even offer them solutions for how they can better secure and manage their apps and APIs.